Investigations are ongoing again. Let's head back to the scene of that terrible blaze in downtown Johannesburg. The search for the loved ones continuing, Heidi Giokos as well. And this is now as we head into the day after, more than 24 hours later, the tragedy for the families and the loved ones left behind. This is going to be where the story goes next, isn't it?
Yes, certainly, Gareth. I think those that have survived have to now really find a way to pick up the pieces and start to try and rebuild their lives. But I want to give you a different view and perspective this morning, because yesterday it was pandemonium here and you really couldn't see the extent of the damage. So my colleague Asanda and I are actually going to show you the building. We are going to start from the very top, from where all of this transpired. We were told that this fire started on the ground floor, but there seems to be a section of the building that was more gutted than the rest of the building. So to my left, if you can see that this building was obviously turned into a hijacked building. It was a hijacked building. It became an informal settlement within this actual building, and the fire seems to have moved all the way from the ground floor, moving up all the way to the top of the 5th floor. But it doesn't seem as though it went right through the building. It just seems as though this particular section was affected more than the rest of the building. We do know that over 70 people have now tragically lost their lives in all of this, and we were told that about 73 bodies were recovered here. It's very difficult, and I'm going to ask my colleague Asanda to just start walking with me. If you can just bear with us, Gareth, because there's a lot of rubble and debris all over, and we do know that the fence has been put up, the barbed wire has been put up to prevent anybody from going in. But this section over here that my colleague is showing you at the moment is probably where the fire might have started. We've been told it started on the ground floor, and it seems as though the fire was extensive here. We also saw firefighters and first responders yesterday really battling in this particular area over here. You can actually just see on the inside and the windows. I mean, the fire must have been really extensive in this particular section of the building. We still do not know what could have caused the fire. We do not know if it could have been a gas stove, a paraffin stove, if it could have been a candle. At this point, we actually don't even know if this building had legal electricity connection. So it's obviously very difficult to ascertain exactly what is going on. I'm going to ask my colleague if we can just start walking in terms of really starting to look further as to the extent of the damage. I'm not exactly sure, Gareth, because unfortunately we don't know what this building was like before this blaze and before this fire. But interestingly, though, there's a gas cylinder there. Not exactly sure where that comes from or what that was used for, but I did see that some eyewitnesses were alluding to the fact that this could have been either a gas stove that caused the fire, or it could have been a gas heater or any sort of gas that was used to either cook or keep warm. Many were saying, why would that even be used, because the weather's warming up. But I would say that over the last 2 to 3 days, it has been rather nippy in terms of weather, so people might have still been using some sort of heating devices to keep warm or to cook. Excuse me. So this is also part of the building that we have not seen as yet, but you can actually see how this probably was gutted. I'm not sure if people were living in this part of the building. I'm not sure if people had turned this part of the building into an informal settlement, but it does seem as though there were, hundreds, if I could say, of people occupying this building. It was definitely over-occupied in terms of its actual capacity that it can handle. We were told by emergency services yesterday that probably over 200 families were affected in all of this. But you can see obviously the fire causing the windows to shatter and to break because the fire was so extensive. This part of the building definitely was affected by the fire, but it wasn't as extensive in terms of how severe the fire actually was, Gareth. And I'm just going to ask, I want to move around the corner because this particular section goes to show you that it actually wasn't that badly affected in terms of the fire. Maybe inside. At this point, obviously, we will not be allowed to go in because of the integrity of the building, and it's been handed over to the South African Police Service. But this part of the building over here, just bear with us, Gareth, as we move around the corner. This part of the building, I do think, was affected by the fire, but because people were trapped inside, it was very difficult for people to get out through the main entrance. And you can actually see that people were starting to use blankets and people were starting to use curtains, whatever they could find, to try and get out of the windows. We were also told that people were actually starting, my colleague Pule Letwiti-Jones was indeed speaking to neighbors and people staying in nearby apartments, that in actual fact, people were literally throwing their kids out of the windows and jumping. People were getting hurt in that way, but it was the only thing that they could do to try and save their families and themselves. But okay, so now you can actually see this part of the building was definitely gutted and affected, but people tried by all means to get out. They obviously broke the top section of the window because the bottom part has some sort of burglar bars, but you can just see the desperation of people really trying to get out. It seems as though when Asanda pans down, eventually people were throwing mattresses out so that they could probably jump on the mattress to avoid any sort of impact or whatever the case might be. So I think this is a great perspective, Gareth, of what the building actually looks like more than 24 hours afterwards, because yesterday we just could not get a sense of what was really going on. There were just too many people. The whole area was cornered off. And in actual fact, where we are standing, the tragedy of all of this is that where we are standing is where, just behind me, is where the bodies of those 73 had been laid once they had been recovered from the building, and pathologists had come to collect these bodies. So this is a very different scene more than 24 hours later, and you just cannot believe. You can almost feel it in the air about how tragic this all must have been for everybody in the building, everybody around the building, really trying to just comprehend what was going on.
Yeah, and Heidi, absolutely good point on the mattresses as well, and those curtains/blankets. But you and I, we were speaking to eyewitnesses yesterday. You were there before I got to you as well, and we had eyewitnesses saying that people were throwing those mattresses out of the window for two things. There's one right behind you, is to try and land on it. But the actual reason is we were seeing people picking up what was their belongings, including mattresses, and trying to get away from the building as well. Heidi, we'll leave you there for now, I think. Unless you've got a guest with you, do we need to come back
Gareth,
to you?
Yes, I actually.
Go
yes,
for it,
thank
Heidi
you so much.
Giokos.
I do have a guest. I do believe I am with the councillor. Thank you so much for your time, sir. We do appreciate it. It's more than 24 hours later, and we just cannot believe the tragedy of almost over 70 people having lost their lives. Maybe just tell us your perspective. Were you here yesterday? Did you, when this fire erupted, were you here? Do you have any recollection of what happened?
Good morning. I was here yesterday. 3 in the morning I was here. When I got a call, then I came rush here, and I was here the whole day. Actually, the whole day and the whole night, because I left here around 12. Then, as I wake up here today to come and check what is happening. Then yesterday, what happened? We managed to get 3 places for the people so that they can get a shelter. Then one is at Hofland, and also a recreation center, and also a Kaya center, and then where the people they can get a shelter to the yesterday night.
Okay, I want to ask you in terms of the issue around shelter that has been provided for those that have survived, because we are hearing that some of them don't want to go to the shelter. Some of them are just refusing. Are you getting a sense from some people that stayed here that they don't want to go to the shelter, and if so, why?
No, actually, I was the one who was trying to pursue them to convince them to go to the shelter because it's not safe for them to sleep on the street. But then what I've sensed, people are scared. Maybe some of them are foreign national. They thought maybe they will be deported such a case. But we put it clear as a city that we are not about to deport anybody or to arrest anybody. Everybody will be looked after, will be taken care of. But some of them, they were very skeptical to go to the shelter. They were claiming to say that they were scared about their belongings that are still behind the building. But we explained to them that there will be securities, the building will be sealed, it will be protected 24/7, so that whatever that is left of their belongings, they will all find it when everything is safe to do so. But now nobody is allowed to get inside the building.
I want to ask you in terms of children that have tragically either lost their mothers or fathers. From those that you are advising to go to the shelters, how many children are we looking at? Is it a large number of children that have been?
It's not a larger number because there's one a daughter. I think she's about 1.5 years. Then she lost her mom. Then it's very devastating moment. It's very sad. It's very painful because she won't understand what had happened. But then some people, they were able to take care, and she's also at the shelter.
Okay, and do we know how many people have been taken to shelters? Do you have a rough figure of how many people have been moved there?
You know, it will be difficult because the metro bus, the first one was full into capacity, then the another one, then it was not yet full, was half full. Then I'm not quite sure, maybe plus minus 100 people or plus.
Okay. I want to ask you about this building. This building has clearly been a problematic one. We were told it's a hijacked building. The tragedy here is that this building used to be a shelter for women and children, and it was clearly neglected and later on hijacked. We were told that there were actual informal settlements inside this building. Could you maybe just take us through the state of this building before the fire started?
Okay. Then the building before it was the shelter, then the other side it was a clinic. The clinic, it was declared that it is not safe, the building structure, then it was closed. Then now it was remained the shelter of the shelter. But in 2013, then the person was having a lease, it got expired. Then around 2016, that is when this building was invaded and be hijacked by the thugs, by the criminals that were collecting rent. Unfortunately, if you see that this, it was the mayor, then it was Herman Mashaba, then that it was during that time. Yeah. But now in 2019, we came here to have a raid where 140 illegal migrants were found, then we arrested, and there was another criminal was collecting rent. He was also arrested at Joburg Central Police Station. Then that is what happened. But now it didn't stop. Hence, it happened yesterday. There were still people collecting rent to these people illegally. So then inside there were shacks erected with the board. Hence, you find that that's the fire that were caught yesterday. It was easy for it to go to in a larger extent. It's because of those boards that were erected there illegally. So.
I want to ask you about your responsibility as a councillor. You know, from what I'm getting, what you're saying to me is that you were trying to alert the city that there's a problem here. The fact that there were arrests made, the fact that there were raids. You know, after 2019, what happened? Did you as a councillor try to engage with the city to say, this is problematic, this needs to be sorted out?
Yes, continuously, because you don't stop to do what is right. What you say that is good, you continue to do that. But the government then, during that time, then the government of the DA, they came here yesterday to make statement of which they were the one who failed, because I've raised this matter to them several times. I even have a question to say that because at the council you can be able to raise question, then so that the MMC responsible for housing settlement, he can be able to respond what is his intention, what is he going to do. Also with the MMC of safety, in terms of the unsafe of the people, what is his response? The intention, the plans that is having about the building. What are those plans? But there's nothing I receive it, because I was asking on behalf of the residents of Ward 124. Then I continue again to send a motion to say that can the city to make an audit to be able to identify this hijacked building, because there's another one just behind you, behind us, then there's just inside the building, and it's very terrible. We once came here to do a walkabout with the Mashaba himself as a mayor, but it's still here today. But now I can safely say that with the government of local unity that is in power right now, that is in governments right now, they are able to come together to say that they are committed to bring a change in the city of Johannesburg, to make an audit, to identify the number of buildings that are hijacked by these criminals, and to make it a point that these buildings, some of them are utilized, for example, as student accommodation.
Sure.
Then even this one that you see, the children that are staying here, then that is intention to do, and also what to go to do to address the backlog that we are having in terms of the RDPs, so that it can address it for the low-cost houses. For example, those people are paying to illegal bogus landlord here. Now they can be able to pay to the city, then so that they can be paid to able to the city to make the revenue onto it.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Councillor. We do
No, thank you
appreciate
very much.
we appreciate your time this morning. And you know, Garrett, that building, when we were standing here and speaking, I actually noticed it, and I said to myself, that is a ticking time bomb as well. Because I'm going to just quickly ask you. I know I've been told to wrap, but there's actually a shack on the roof. That's the extent of what's actually happening here in the CBD, where these buildings are hijacked, and then you have a situation where these shacks are erected. There's actually a shack on top. There's a 1, 2, 3, 4, if I can see from where I'm standing, on top of the roof of this actual building. So yesterday we did speak to the former mayor of the city of Johannesburg, Herman Mashaba, and he said the city of Johannesburg, the inner city, the CBD, is a ticking time bomb, because it's not just this building that, you know, the tragedy happened here, but there are a number of buildings that urgently need attention. And if it's not attended to as quickly as possible, you sadly might have a repeat of what happened here yesterday.
Yeah, and the thing is, we've all been warned now. This was going to happen. Now it has happened, Heidi Giokos. And the question has to be, how do we prevent it from happening again?